Spanking. More moves in Canada to make it illegal. Nothing new there. Former dancer and model, current psychologist and counsellor Vivian Diller joins us again from New York. Welcome to you.
Nice to be here.
Now, I've been a very naughty boy, so no, isn't that pathetic? An Englishman saying that. And I can hear people laughing in the background. For me, we've raised 4 children relatively well, I think. I've always thought that there are two crazy groups of people involved in the spanking issue. Those who obsess about making it illegal and those who obsess about always being ready to spank. It's occasional. If it happens too often, you're in trouble. But I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other.
As a psychologist, I really don't condone spanking. I don't think it's the optimal way to discipline children. As a parent, I empathize. I mean, you have 4, I have 3. We know how difficult a challenge it is to discipline children. But see, there are people out there who truly think that it is the most efficient, the easiest, the best result way of disciplining children, and in fact that's not true. And these are often people who will say something like, well, I was spanked as a kid, I turned out okay, so it's fine for my children. To me, it's a little like saying, you know, if a parent smoked around you and you inhaled and you didn't get cancer, then it's okay. It's actually not okay. And part of it is because the line between spanking and beating and then abuse and then torture, like you say, those extremes.
All right, hold on, whoa. You're not an NBC now. You're going to get some real questions here. That premise was so fragile, it's breaking in my hands. You know, Hitler liked Beaujolais, I like Beaujolais, thus I'm a Nazi. You just said, people who said the parents smoked around them and I'm okay, it's the same as I was occasionally spanked. Why are they the same? They're completely different. Many people, I had the occasional spank, it did me no harm. If my parents were spanking me every second day, it would have harmed me. There is no necessary link between an occasional spank and torture. In fact, abusers tend to be people who don't even spend much time with the kids and don't spank. They just abuse because they're evil.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and even the American Academy of Pediatrics has debated this issue. And in that group of pediatricians who study this very carefully, there is a small group who agree with you. They say that spanking on occasion is appropriate sometimes, but there are guidelines, and this is where it gets tricky because not every parent listens to these guidelines, and I'll elucidate them very carefully. One is that it's a non-violent act done for disciplinary reasons only. It's with an open hand on the slap on the buttocks or legs, not on any other part of the body, so that means no face, no genital parts, which, you know, some parents actually think that's okay. And it's only for children between 2 and 6, as long as it accompanies explanation. Okay, those are a lot of conditions. So you hear parents who say, well, it's fine, but actually, those conditions are not always followed because spanking occurs when people are angry,
sorry to
when they're
interrupt
frustrated.
You. However,
right?
you know, when I'm in a crisis, I'm not going to call a pediatrician. Let's get some context here. These are organizations of doctors who have a vested interest in making more rules and regulations. To say, you're doing a fine job, let it go, is not in their interest. I would argue that kids today in North America face more obesity, irresponsibility, lack of deference, lack of respect than any other time in the past 70 to 80 years. There are all sorts of parents who will dress their kids as little hookers, little pimps, think it's funny when they use filthy language, don't mind if they're sexually active. You're on the pill, that's fine, not a problem. Drug use, oh, it's okay, it's a big thing to do. These are the problems we face, not the occasional spank.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest as an alternative to spanking is actually much more difficult, which is from a very early age, these kids who overeat, you know, act out badly, you know, are spoiled or entitled, these are not kids who have parents who from a very early age have used what we call clear and consistent firm limit setting. And when you do that from an early age and you do it consistently, what I'm suggesting is you actually don't need to resort to spanking. I'm not blaming parents. You know, parents do get overwhelmed and frustrated, and they don't have necessarily time to think it out and study the rules. But we are leaning in the direction of using disciplinary tactics that are actually more effective. See, when you tell parents spanking is okay occasionally, it's a lot of gray area. And for people who don't really understand the alternatives are actually better, they'll say, well, you know, I spanked occasionally. And I'm not saying even that's a negative. I'm saying if you say spanking is okay, or an organization like the AAP says it's okay, you give certain people the freedom to say, well, you know, routine spanking is the way we do it at our house.
I think I've got more respect for people and for parents than some experts. There is a crisis in parenting, but this is what I find to be extraordinarily schizophrenic and ironic, to say the least. At a time when we seem to almost encourage the single-parent family, bathing in denial that it's fine, it's a good thing, when we encourage kids to play up, when we sexualize children, there's always the same zealots in this country, and the same in your country, who want to chastise those parents who spank. 2 to 6, if it's 7, if it's 8, it's not the end of the world. Open hand, yes, always. Bum on their open hand, top of the legs. If you're hitting them in the genitals, you should be arrested, for goodness sake. I just think it's going after ordinary people, and it's lionizing those people who are not good parents. It's not about alternatives, it's simply about good, decent parenting and spending time with the children.
Okay, so if you're talking about making spanking illegal, I understand your point of view. You're saying we're going to an extreme. But I think greater education for parents about how to discipline children would make it less likely that there would be that gray area that people go from an occasional spank. You know, and what I hear you saying is, because I hear this from patients who'll say, actually, my parents were very loving, very caring people, and that 1 or 2 times I was spanked really stayed with me, because they so rarely did it. Now, in the context of a loving family, when you see a parent get so angry about your behavior, raising a hand can sometimes stop a behavior.
All right.
I'm talking about people whose rage is out of control, who themselves were brought up without knowing how to control themselves. For them, we have to be very careful to say an occasional spank is okay.
Yeah, well, we do. We have to be very careful in all sorts of ways with people like that, because they have rage. But I'll say again, it's been a fascinating conversation, but when I see bad parenting, invariably it's people who don't spank because they can't even be bothered. They'd rather just use foul language, smoke up, have various lovers in front of the kids. That's what I think.
Well, you don't know when you... Yes, but when you see those kids go home, and maybe they've been let loose, you know, in the mall, when they go home and the parent takes out the strap or the... That's where we have a problem.
Got to wrap or I'll be spanked. Thank you so much, as always.
It's great to talk to you.